Alrighty, so week 3 of the MLS regular season is in the books as the final two game of the Sunday action have just finished. And by the way, it is actually still light outside, and right now at the time of this recording it is 6:15, and when daylight saving has begun and now the clock moving hour, that means it's gonna get lighter more often than we have before, and it also means that spring and summer is coming, and I'm pretty sure everybody loves spring and summertime rather than during the winter time and basically have to deal with the cold or snow, unless of course you're in the Northeast where I do send my condolence that hopefully the weather will improve for you, because I know in the Northeast right now it is incredibly cold, and we kind of saw, I wouldn't say a snow classical, but more like a game that actually did snow in terms of this one that we'll talk about. But let us begin by talking about the first game between Atlanta versus Charlotte. And by the way, after both of these games finish, I think this might be the first weekend that I have seen where the entire weekend there was no draw in any of the games. And this one actually came very close to be the only game that came in a draw. And in some way, I wish this was the only game that is the only weekend that ends up in a draw, because for Charlotte FC, this was an absolute heartbreak for them. Like, they made history of them finally scoring their first goal, but they came oh so close of getting their first ever point, and unfortunately, it's been undone by one of the biggest enemy of their early life in MLS, and that's deflection. So, in the first half, Martinez hits one straight to Kalina. I mean, Martinez was a man on a mission today. Like, you can definitely sense that he really wants to score a goal in this one, and he actually ends up on the score sheet. Ortiz then missed just wide from 22 yards out. It was a very open game to start this one. Lindsay then blasts one into the stands before Gutman thought that he scored the opening goal for Atlanta United, but the goal was disallowed because there was a foul in the box on the corner delivery. By the way, when that ball was delivering, the whistle already been blown, but it seemed like nobody heard it because Gutman basically hits it. The crowd obviously celebrate, only to realize that the goal was not going to count because there was a foul happened before the corner was delivered in. Then in the 18th minute, Kalina was able to deny Gutman in the near post as Atlanta was really starting to push for the opener and really kind of dominate this game, because the possession was 72-28 in favor of Atlanta, and this is starting to kind of be very similar to the last game where Charlotte was having a really tough time getting out of their own half and are just getting pinned back while the opposition are just putting a firing squad in front of their net. Though that isn't really the case early on in this game, because the shots were only 3-2 in favor of Atlanta, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Atlanta was very slow going forward on the attack. Like they look kind of lackluster going forward in the final third, which would be the story throughout this game. Though Kalina did deny Martinez after just a WTF turnover from Fuchs. I mean, that defense from Charlotte in this game, again, there was times where they made some key mistake, and they were very fortunate that this one was not being punished by Joseph Martinez. Wolf then had a shot that was put it wide on the deflection. The finishing of Atlanta is why this is still scoreless in this game. Rizaldo, of course, then hit one straight to Kalina before Guzan absolutely robs Tedeschi and Charlotte's first ever goal. I mean, this was literally put on a plate for Karol Tedeschi, and the fact that Guzan was able to make this save, I mean, I'm pretty sure every Charlotte fans were ready to celebrate. By the way, there was actually a lot of Charlotte fans in this game. I definitely saw a scatter of the mint color jersey throughout Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's not that far from Charlotte to Atlanta with I think it's like a 3-hour drive in between, and I'm pretty sure there are some folks in Charlotte have made the drive down south to Georgia to watch this game. But there was no doubt that they were all definitely seeing their team getting dominant, as even with that incredible save from Guzan, the shots were still 9-3 in favor of Atlanta. Though 3 minutes later, Guzan once again denied Swiatek again on the header there. But there was no doubt Charlotte was gaining some steam and were looked to be very close in terms of making history of scoring their very first goal. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Swiatek had another opportunity as he hits one straight to Guzan, and for Karol Swiatek, when you look at some of the chances that he has, when you're carrying that DP label, you have to at least one of them. And I think the one that I've talked about when the first chance that he had, I thought that one he should have buried with him just kind of being wide open. I mean, it was a great save from Grizan, but that's one that if you're a striker and especially a DP striker, you need to put that one into the back of the net. And at that point, Atlanta kind of decided to bring on the cavalry as Amanda and Marcelo Moreno was summoned into this game. You know, Thiago Amanda obviously making his debut, and it was definitely not a good debut for Thiago Amanda. I mean, he rarely got into any action. I think there was that time when JP mentioned the fact that, you know, he barely has got any touches, and a lot maybe has to do with the fact that, you know, he's kind of new to, or actually it wasn't JP that mentioned, it was Kobe Jones kind of mentioned of how, you know, he's kind of new to this team. He's just still trying to figure out the system, and that it also feels like he was maybe sitting back a little bit too much to kind of rely on the help when he needs to, of course trying to create those chances and basically get into some spots to basically let his teammate to pass to him, because that's kind of one thing you need to do. I mean, when you're a guy that is new in the block, you can't just be lazy and just kind of expect the ball to be on your feet. You need to work around and get into good space to prove your teammate that they can feed the ball to you there, and that's what Amanda really did not do throughout this game. Though in the 58th minute, there was a penalty that was given to Atlanta as McCoon basically brought down Lennon in the box. I mean, that was just a careless tackle there from Christian McCoon, bringing down Lennon in the box. No question that was a penalty. Though before the penalty was given, there was definitely some pushing and shoving from both teams, and I'm going to talk about this later, but it just felt like when that happened, I think JP immediately mentioned, oh, this is the rivalry that we make. And the amount of time that I think JP and Kobe Jones mentioned about how this is a rivalry and how they're just really pushing the narrative. And I've said this before. I mean, I know MLS is trying to push the narrative of this being a rivalry, but I just sometimes feel like they pushed it a little bit too hard. And also, rivalry doesn't just come out of blue or just the league wants to kind of promote it. Rivalry sometimes could be organic, and, you know, it does take time to generate. And right now, I just feel like, you know, the league is definitely pushing it too hard by saying this as a rivalry. I mean, this is kind of similar to what they did when Nashville came into the league, or even when Miami came into the league, where, you know, they pushed the narrative of Miami and Orlando being a rival, even though if you ask any Orlando City fans and who do they think they hate the most, a lot of them will say Atlanta rather than Miami. And the same goes with Atlanta, who they would hate the most, whether it's Charlotte or Orlando City. They would say Orlando, though they're starting to maybe say Nashville too, because of the way that Nashville is started to be decent. But yeah, it's gonna take time for this rivalry to be the case. And again, it was kind of annoying at times when they just keep pushing the narrative. Like, it was just a simple pushing and shoving thing. I mean, it wasn't even much into it, and I mean, JP literally just acting like they're about to brawl or something and really create what would become a new rivalry. And by the way, they also kind of mentioned the fact that they don't even have a name for this rivalry. I mean, there was even time that they called this the no-name rivalry, which at that point I'm just like, stop. You know, just stop with pushing this narrative of a rivalry. Let's just get this game kind of going, and let's see how this, of course, would play out. But anyway, going back to the game itself, the penalty, of course, was taken from Joseph Martinez, and as I mentioned, Martinez, he was a man on a mission trying to score a goal, and he finally does so here, scoring on the penalty to give Atlanta a 1-0 lead. But unfortunately, that lead would not last long, because this is when history made. In the 65th minute, it's Adam Armour scoring from Bender to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and not only that is the first ever goal in Charlotte FC history, but that's also the first career MLS goal for Adam Armour. So congratulations to him, and he's definitely going to be remembered for a very long time as the guy that scores the first ever goal in club history. But what a delivery that was for Ben Bender, who I really think he was the most creative player on the Charlotte team today. And yeah, I mean, Armour was just in a perfect place to head that one in. And all of a sudden, the game was tied up at 1 apiece. Then Alan Franco trying to give Charlotte the lead, but he hits that one wide. And the momentum was definitely with Charlotte up to that point. In Atlanta, you know, they kind of started to look lost in the final third. Like, even when they tried to go on the attack, they just couldn't really create much. Though in the 81st minute, Kalina absolutely robbed Martinez from 10 yards out. And I know at the end of the game, Joseph Martinez, even though he scored a goal from the spot, he's going to be very frustrated because he had chances to score at least 2 or 3. And if this was maybe the old Joseph Martinez that we know that he is, he would have definitely buried that one into the back net. Though you got to give credit to Kalina, who again had a really good game in this one for Charlotte. And again, MLS and Fox really pushing the rivalry narrative, like they kind of mentioned, for the 5th or 6th time up to that point. And as the time winds down, it looked like maybe we're not only going to see Charlotte getting their first ever goal in MLS history, but they might have just got their first ever point in MLS history, until in the 6th minute, that's when the heartbreak happened. As Moreno would score for Moreno to give Atlanta a 2-1 lead, and yeah, it's off of deflection. I mean, this one was deflected off of Makun. I mean, literally almost half of the goals that Charlotte FC has conceded has been off of deflection, because I know in that DC game they had 2 goals that came off of the deflection, and here we go again. This is the 3rd goal that it came off of a deflection. I mean, that's they're getting to a level where I think even FC Cincinnati would be would be kind of surprised how much of a bad luck that Charlotte has had in this league. And also maybe this is why there is that comparison that Charlotte could have as a disastrous season as FC Cincinnati has in their first ever year. But yeah, in the end, Atlanta very fortunate to walk away with all 3 points in this game. 14 shots compared to 12 that they had in this one. 8 shots on goal compared to 7 that Charlotte has. 5 shots off target compared to 1 that Atlanta has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to none that Charlotte has. And possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Charlotte FC has in this game. And, you know, for Charlotte, I know it's a heartbreak in this one, and again, this is just kind of part of the growing pains of the expansion season, but I really think this was the best game that they played so far in their first 3 games. Well, I think between this and the game against DC, I thought they played relatively well, but yeah, I mean, this was a game that they looked like they got a point out of it, and if it wasn't for that unlucky deflection, you know, they could have got a point out of this one. And I think overall, there's still some positive that needs to build from this team. And let's see, maybe next week, we're going to finally see this team make another history, either getting their first ever win in MLS history or finally getting their first point in MLS history next week. But now moving on into the last game of match week number 3, which is between the New York Red Bulls and Minnesota United, or shall I say the New York Red Bulls versus Minnesota United and Dane Sinclair, because this was the Dane Sinclair show, which, you know, originally I wasn't expecting Sinclair to be starting in this game. Apparently, from what I heard, Tyler Miller, he had a flu-like symptom, so he wasn't able to play in this game. But here comes Dane Sinclair, a chance to step up again. And, you know, after this game, I feel like now we definitely have a good problem in terms of the goalkeeping situation, where, you know, he's got a difficult decision to make. Or is he going to maybe put Tyler Miller back in, or is he going to go with the hot hand with Dane Sinclair? And that feels like also it's 2020 all over again, because, you know, when Miller went down with that season-ending injury, Sinclair stepped in, and little do we know that he turns out to be a bona fide generational talent and a guy that I think he can definitely be the future goalkeeper for this Loons team once Miller potentially move on from this team soon. But another news, Arriaga actually returned, but Dibasi was out with an injury, so I think DJ Taylor came in for Dibasi while Dotson played in the spot that Chase Gaspard is. Gaspard's still coming back from an injury. He was actually on the bench in this one, but did not come off the bench. And Arriaga, you know, I was kind of surprised he came back into this game, and I think he also played the full 90 minutes. I mean, there was time, you can see he was not 100% healthy, and yet, despite the fact that he wasn't 100% healthy, what a great shift he had again. I mean, if not 100% healthy Arriaga is putting a good shift like that, man, I can't wait to see how he's going to do. Like, he in some way is not only a great replacement for Ozzy Alonso, but even a better replacement for Ozzy Alonso with the way that he has just really bossed that midfield in his first couple of games as a Loons player. And then, of course, the Red Bulls decided to go with the same starting 11. Or actually, no, that's not true, because I just found out later that Tom Edwards actually was in the starting 11 in this game, and he didn't play in the previous two. Well, he did play, but he didn't he wasn't in the starting 11 for the Red Bulls in the first two games. Now, in the first half, 7 minutes in, Klimala puts it just wide from close range, and it was a slow start again for the Loons on the road. I mean, I'm just kind of getting used to I'm getting used to it because I've seen this happen many times before, and the Red Bulls was just in complete control early in this game. Dane Sinclair had to deny Morgan from long range. Little do we know that Sinclair would not only stood on his heads, but really, it was pretty clear that nothing was going to get past him throughout this game. Though in the 12th minute, a penalty was given to the Red Bulls after VAR deemed that Dotson handballed that one in the box. Now, what's interesting is that, on one angle, it kind of didn't look like it was clear and obvious that Dotson basically handballed it in the box. But then on the other angle, it kind of looked like he did. And again, there's that whole clear and obvious kind of dilemma that we always talk about with VAR. But, I think if you just have one good angle look and it is pretty clear that it is a handball, I think that's pretty much good enough. And, rightfully so, I think that was giving a penalty for the Red Bulls. But the Red Bulls weren't able to take advantage of it because Dane Sinclair denied Klimala from the spot. I mean, I wrote ball don't lie with a question mark because I can see why some people, including Loons fans, will be upset that was giving a penalty. But how about Dane Sinclair? I mean, the thing about Dane Sinclair, he is really starting to becoming a Tim Melia level of goalkeeper in terms of penalty kick stopper. I mean, I know I don't want to just compare him to Tim Melia just yet because, he has a long way before he can reach Tim Melia stats in terms of stopping a penalty. But I think they mentioned the fact that, he has now faced 4 penalties. You only have let 1 in. I mean, that is incredible how when you're a goalkeeper and out of the 4 tries of the penalty kick, you only have let 1 in, and now it's 1 out of 5 that you of course let in, and it's just, I mean, I don't know what's the secret of Dane Sinclair in terms of stopping penalty, but he has definitely got that recipe to do so. Though I will say that it was not a great penalty from Klimala. Like, this was a very bad penalty for him, and for a guy that has been very good at the spot, it was kind of surprised how he really badly missed that one in the penalty spot. Though in the 22nd minute, Reynoso blasts one into the stands, as that was really Minnesota's first shot. Reynoso, another tough game for him, and this is starting to be concerning because Reynoso, he is supposed to be the heart and soul of this team, and occasionally I do still see him basically pull the string on the attack, and maybe occasionally he does put in a very good pass, but then there's also many times where he really frustrates me of either losing the ball or just kind of be a little bit hot temper. I mean, I just feel like for Reynoso, he just need to maybe take it down a step a little bit and just kind of keep his coolness, because it just feels like he loses composure very easily, and that lose of composure really has kind of affected his game, because again, it was not a good game for him once again. But there was no doubt that I thought the Loons did kind of start to wake up a little bit and string some passes after they basically did not do that for the first 20 minutes. Sinclair then denied Morgan in the near post in the 34th minute. The shots was 6-1 in favor of the Red Bulls, but we do head to halftime scoreless between the Red Bulls and Minnesota and Dane Sinclair. Now in the second half, Sinclair robbed Fernandez from point blank range. I mean, this was one of the better save that Sinclair has pulled off, absolutely robbing Fernandez, who looked like he basically got the opening goal for the Red Bulls. But instead of the Red Bulls thinking that they are really now pushing to get that opening goal, it was Minnesota the one that gets the opening goal. And it's that guy, Luis Almeria, scoring from Dotson to make it 1-0 in favor of Minnesota. I mean, what a delivery this was for Hassani Dotson, a guy that's not known for delivering from the corner spot, but what a volley that is for Luis Almeria, who, yeah, he's now finally got off the mark, and let's hope that this is the beginning of what would be a great season for him, and maybe a 10 or 15 plus goal season for this Minnesota team. But then after that, Sinclair once again with an incredible save, this time robbing Long as he went through on goal, and I even wrote DSC was putting a clinic. Like, it just feels like nothing was going to get past him throughout this game. I mean, when a goalkeeper is performing well that you know that he's definitely determined to get a shutout in this one. Though there was a huge shout for a penalty in the 61st minute from the Red Bulls that was not given. And, the Loons, they would continue to sit back, and I kind of thought that they started to look comfortable sitting back because the Red Bulls, again, they start to become very slow on the attack. Like in the first half, they did a good job in terms of moving the ball and really create havoc on this Loons backline. But in the second half, that just doesn't seem like it was the case. And especially after the goal that they concede, they just kind of look very sloppy going for it on the attack. Kind of similar to what I remember last year, where that was a big issue for them, where they just really have a tough time trying to build up from the attack or even go into the final third and deliver a good ball in. But then in the 70th minute, Clemelin did try to do a looping header that goes high. The shots were 12-2 in favor of the Red Bulls up to that point. But in the 74th minute, it could have been 2-0 in favor of Minnesota, and probably should have been 2-0 if it wasn't for Cornell denying Reynoso as he go one-on-one with the goalkeeper. I mean, if we have an informed Reynoso here, he would have definitely buried that in the back of the net 10 out of 10 time. But because of the fact that Reynoso has struggled so much to begin of the season, I wasn't really that surprised that he wasn't able to convert that. But at the same time, I was kind of frustrated because that was the moment for him to make amends of a very bad game that he has. And instead, just put it straight to Cornell, and it was a relatively easy save there before Amaria tried to score his second goal here, but he fired one over the bar. There was then a shout for a penalty for the Red Bulls a couple of minutes later, and once again it was not given as they feel like Dotson handballed it in the box, and they did kind of show a couple of replay on the MSG feed, and I'm not gonna lie, I think the Loons got away with this one. I feel like this one was probably even more clear to be a handball than the one that Dotson basically handballed it early in this game, because you can clearly see his hand was kind of outstretched. And yes, I know that his hands was kind of making a motion where he's kind of like doing this, and basically his hand was trying to get back to around his hips level, but it just gets to a point where when you handball it, even when you're in that motion to do so, if it hits your hand in that outstretched position, it's a penalty. And I think Minnesota got really lucky, the fact that this was not given, and especially VAR did not take a second look to see if this was a penalty or not. But there was no doubt, as the time winds down, the Red Bulls was throwing the kitchen sink to trying to get the equalizer. Dane Sinclair, for good measure, denying Yearwood from long range, and it was really kind of hold your breath time. I mean, I was definitely holding my breath for the last 6 minutes, because I know this team, there's times where they can go full Minnesota and concede a late goal to really kind of end of what was a decent game for this Loons team on the road. But in the end, they were able to hold on and get a big 1-0 win in their first win of the season against the New York Red Bulls. And the shots in this one, I mean, it was so one-sided in favor of the Red Bulls. 19 shots committed, just 5 that Minnesota has. 2 shots on goal for the 8 that the Red Bulls had. 2 shots off target for the 4 that the Red Bulls had. 1 shot that was blocked for the 7 that the Red Bulls had. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that the Red Bulls has in this game. And yeah, again, Dane Sinclair, he's really the reason why that this team was able to salvage at least a point, and in the end all 3 points in this game. And for the Red Bulls, I guess this is just kind of one of those games where they just couldn't really quite figure out on the attack. And then the other team, of course, got that one moment and able to put it into the back of the net. And in other words, I would like to say they were the victim of a smash and grab. I mean, this was just a classic smash and grab win that Minnesota had against the Red Bulls. But I'll take it. I mean, anytime when you're able to go on the road and get points, and especially get a win, it's not an easy thing to do. And I know this is a team that does struggle a lot on the road. So to go on the road and now able to stay undefeated and get a win against a really tough opponent that is the Red Bulls, I'll take it. I mean, it's definitely a great victory for this team. But either way, that is pretty much it for the review of both of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of both of these games? And yeah, week number 3 is done and is in the books. And, before we know it, week number 4 is going to begin. And I'm going to start maybe thinking about making some video talking about teams that either thrive in the first couple of weeks in the season, and also teams that have struggled for the first couple of season, and what going to happen. Because I know, even though we still have a long way before the MLS regular season is over, we're getting to that point where once we get to like 6 or 7 games, this is really where the there may be some measuring stick of how each team's season is going to go, and maybe even there's some head coaches that could be under hot seat. I mean, I'm looking at you, Mateus Almeida and the San Jose Earthquakes, of the fact that yeah, some head coaches could be potentially let go before we even get to the halfway point of the season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys see a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.